It is a great honor to be here in observance of Veterans Day. I am humbled to be in the presence of all assembled here today, and I sincerely thank each veteran, the active duty and reserve members, and your families for your service. It is your commitment and your sacrifice that makes this country great. This country exists in no small part because of people like each and every one of you. Everything I'm going to tell you tonight is absolutely true. Some of it you might not find on the college website. Some of it nobody likes to talk about anymore. But my wife, Karen, who is here tonight, was alongside of me and supporting me every step of the way, starting when we met on this campus in 1969. She can vouch for my comments. If somebody told me in the spring of 1970 that I was going to be speaking as a veteran of the U.S. Army at a dining-in event in the Student Center of SUNY New Paltz, I would have dismissed the idea as being totally impossible. In fact, in 1970, I would have bet my life that I wouldn't be standing here in this capacity today. In the spring of 1970, I was present on this campus during the student takeover of the old main building that was to protest the student deaths that occurred on the campus of Kent State University by National Guardsmen during an anti-Vietnam War protest. On this campus, a wooden building on College Avenue was burned down, and there was talk that the college post office was going to be burned down because it was a federal building. Obviously, wooden buildings were a favorite target in those days. The spring semester was ended a few weeks early, final exams canceled, and everybody was sent home. Understandably, the college president didn't want this campus to be the next Kent State. The underlying theme to all of this, of course, was the U.S. involvement in the Vietnam War. Whether it was college students answering to what they thought was a higher moral calling or simply their fear of being drafted is subject to debate. Unfortunately, anti-war sentiment was directed to the political leadership of this country, as well as members of the military. Military people in general were vilified by members of the college community on many campuses throughout the United States. New Paltz was no exception. As I look back on it now, students were caught up in the emotional sentiment of the day. We lacked the understanding of the issues from the historical perspective that we now know. Thankfully, society views military service much more positively today. The designation of New Paltz as a military-friendly school is a great credit to this institution. In my lifetime, I have known it when it was anything but military-friendly and what it is now. Change is slow, but advocates like Jason Gilliland, President Christian, David Eaton, the Vice President for Enrollment Management, the staff of the IDMH, the members of the Veterans Advisory Board, and Nisa Cardona, the Director of Students Accounts, and Dr. Gerald Benjamin are among many others who have transformed this place to where it is an institution where people with a military affiliation are valued. I am grateful to see this well-deserved transition. I personally waited over 25 years for somebody from the civilian world to finally thank me for my service. By the time I graduated from New Paltz in 1973, the idea of a career path that included military service was simply not a popular option. People who were oriented to the military were more or less shunned by their college peers. Military members were not particularly understood or appreciated by this very liberal, vocal, and large segment of the population. This included faculty and administration, in addition to the students. In the 1970s, military recruiters were banned from this campus. In fact, no one in uniform, not even the state police, were allowed on this campus. This campus, as many campuses of the day, were not in any way military friendly. My own story as a student protester took a surprise turn when I entered military service as a recipient of a U.S. Army Health Professions Scholarship. I didn't dare tell my New Paltz classmates. I applied for my scholarship more or less in secrecy. When necessary, I sheepishly explained my military service at the time by saying that every man has his price, and mine was simply the 6 figures I needed to attend dental school. My need for the money was very real, but I also felt service was an obligation, particularly in light of the sacrifices made during the Vietnam War by our military. The transition from New Paltz student to military member was not an easy one. There was simply no one around to help. During the summer after New Paltz graduation, I received notice that my scholarship was granted, along with a packet labeled Special Orders from the Army Surgeon General's office in Washington, D.C. I was instructed to report without delay to the nearest military post in order to take the oath of office to be administered by the officer of the day. You could imagine the reaction of the sentry on duty at the main gate of West Point when this hippie-looking person with long hair, unshaven, untidy appearance, wearing sandals, bell-bottom pants, and an ill-fitting jacket presented. When the MP asked me to state my business, I said I was there to be commissioned as a second lieutenant. It's understandable that he didn't believe me. He likely thought this was another student prank. When I produced my orders, even more confusion ensued. The officer of the day finally made calls to the appropriate individuals at the Pentagon, and to his own disbelief, he actually found himself swearing me in. The cadet who was assigned to escort Karen and me tried his best not to make eye contact with us. By the end of the impromptu commissioning ceremony, to my amazement, I was actually treated with the respect due a newly commissioned officer, despite my questionable presentation. I learned an important lesson in this event, that members of the military were judgmental, but not as judgmental and inflexible as my student counterparts. I learned at that moment that the Army takes care of its own, no matter who they are. During the summers while in graduate school, I was assigned to temporary duty at the Army Institute of Research at Walter Reed. For my very first day, I was instructed to report in uniform at 0800. I did not have the benefit of basic training, ROTC, Officers Basic School, or any military training of any kind. At 0600 that day, my brother-in-law, a Marine officer, was spit-shining my shoes, applying Brasso to my belt buckle, teaching me how to salute and how to blouse my shirt. In his Marine eyes, he saw me as a lamb off to the slaughter. Upon reporting, I was sent to First Sergeant Wright, a tough trooper who had seen several combat tours in Vietnam. He was tasked with my orientation. Despite my being totally green and from a different philosophical place, he approached me with great courtesy and understanding, despite his real-world military experience, which obviously ran circles around me. It was in these interactions that I continued to change my perception of the military. During those summer active duty for training tours, I learned things that never would have been presented so clearly or plainly in a civilian school. Chain of command, teamwork, respect, loyalty, and duty. In the end, I became a serious soldier. At the completion of my first year of active duty, I was assigned as a staff officer at Walter Reed U.S. Army Medical Center with duty at the Pentagon. It was quite a journey for a former New Paltz anti-war hippie. My patients at the Pentagon, many of whom were field grade and general officers in the organization of the Joint Chiefs, were intrigued, respectful, and sometimes amused by my story of getting there on the path less traveled. Probably their fear of me as a military dentist helped to get their attention, despite my significantly lower rank. Whether you go to college first or complete military service first, the joining of military service with higher education is an unbeatable combination. The skills, courage, leadership opportunities, and responsibilities learned in military service cannot be learned anywhere else. They strengthen, augment, and bolster whatever else your college degree confers. For me, my military service opened many doors professionally, even after I had attained the highest educational level in my field. My civilian colleagues with military experience always provided a special sense of camaraderie, cooperation, and dependability. For me, my service turned out to be priceless. For the veterans who are here as students, don't give up, continue the fight. You have already done the hard part. The rewards will be there for you to claim. You have earned it. To all present here tonight, once again, thank you for your service to this institution. Congratulations in finally becoming the resource you have become in support of our armed forces. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Brody.